in our case, I think you gently told me, I think I asked you, because you're like, we don't diagnose people. We just tell you what's going on and how we can fix it. And I'm like, am I really anxious? Do I have some anxiety, stress? You're like, yeah. And I'm like,
yeah, that's me.
Separation, new co-parenting, figuring out a new career, all these things,
100%.
So yeah, my body's a little bit twitched out, I think.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I can see it in this eye. The Kid Carson Show is taped at MindfulMEDS Studio inside Conscious Lab, downtown Vancouver, Canada. This episode powered by PHMX.
People are going to be able to come spend a week with us and go home, and it's going to be the most epic week of their life.
Stem cells, breath work, even ayahuasca. Hello. Details on PHMX in the show notes.
Kid Carson Show.
Dr. Ash is here. What's up, my man?
How you doing?
How you doing? Good. Do we call you Dr. Ash?
Dr. Ash is simple, easy format. The word doesn't get slaughtered too quickly, so Ash is fine.
I've been coming to your clinic for some treatments, and I thought we got to just jam about what you're doing, because I know you're very passionate about what you're doing, and you have like some views that people are going to love, and that's that people are getting the wrong advice when it comes to all sorts of different things when it comes to their brain.
I agree.
Concussions, you name it. Why don't you give us a little 50,000-foot view before we dive in deep on what you're doing over there?
Sounds great.
On Broadway.
On Broadway.
Yes.
West Broadway, we're there. Canadian Brain Performance Neuroplasticity Center. It's my passion. It's where I wake up every morning to go there and with a big smile in my face, just to change lives as much as I can and within the scope that I have. I'm a chiropractor by trade in Canada, but in the US, I'm a chiropractic neurologist or functional neurologist. It's basically a fellowship, postdoctorate levels once you go through your 4 years of chiropractic degree. And after the 4 years of undergrad, so you do your 4 years of chiropractic degree, and then after 2 years of practice, you're allowed to start taking some fellowship courses that are usually about 300 hours of fellowship courses in clinical neuroscience and functional neurology, where you see a different world of brain and nervous system. It's basically all based on neuroplasticity. So I did that for my own interest because I was trying to get my brain back to normal after a brain injury that I had 30 years ago, which led me to become a chiropractor eventually. However, finding this neuroplasticity business was phenomenal. It was a wake-up call for me. I was like, thank God something exists out there that I can actually utilize and change my life, improve myself, get my brain back in order, go back to play soccer again without the fear of having a concussion or brain injury or seizures and blackouts that I was suffering from after the injury. So I followed up with a Carrick Institute, Dr. Frederick Carrick, who's my mentor. He's the person who coined the term functional neurology. He's the guy who brought Sidney Crosby back to business of hockey again. He literally put him back in after his massive concussion. And from there on, we followed Dr. Carrick and his teachings. And now I'm triple board certified with American College of Brain Injury and Rehab, American Chiropractic Board of Neurology. I also have a fellowship with American Anti-Aging and Regenerative Medicine with Metabolic Medicine Fellowship. And I really did all this just to figure out what is going on. How can I improve myself? How can I improve my brain's shortcomings after that brain injury? Because I was just in limbo for a long period of time and I didn't know where to go, to be honest with you. Lost my identity.
Most people won't even go to the gym, and you did all of that just to heal your own brain. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But you know what? When it comes to the gym, I am lazy.
Right.
But
hey,
I do it.
Right, you do
I do it.
Can I ask you, if it's not too personal, what your injury was?
Oh, of course, absolutely. Okay. This is about 29 years ago almost that I was a pedestrian and I was walking the street trying to deliver a check to a bank from a law firm, and I got hit by a car that was crossing. It was basically passing the red light, and I woke up in the hospital 3 hours later, and I didn't remember anything. I didn't know what happened. The only thing that I remembered, Kid, was that I had a soccer game on Saturday, and that soccer game was basically a life-changing matter for me. I was playing the All-Canadian High School games on that Saturday in Toronto, and I was signing my full-ride scholarship, soccer scholarship with one of the reputable colleges, universities in the U.S. Oh. And this happened when I was still my refugee status in Canada was pending. So I was just working hard, finishing my high school at of course, at the age of 21 still, because I had to do a lot of Shakespearean English in order to qualify for the universities in the US and Canada, learning the English language here. And that accident really catapulted my life entirely upside down, and I didn't know where else to go because I basically fractured my back, my spine, fractured my fibular head, so I couldn't really run anymore. It was dramatic for me, and I identified as a soccer player, and I wanted to become a medical doctor and a professional soccer player like Socrates, who was a Brazilian soccer player, was a captain of 1982 to 1984 Brazilian team. He was a medical doctor, and he was combating AIDS at the time, and I was really fascinated by this guy. He's a professional soccer player, he's the captain of Brazilian team, and then he's also a medical professional. Why not? So I was planning to go through that. And
sometimes you need to see someone doing it to believe it's possible,
absolutely.
Right? That sounds wild.
Absolutely. And I think, I've always been very positive about everything. It didn't matter. I lived in Spain as a refugee as well, to when I moved from Iran to Spain during the wartime. I learned a lot in Spain, with the culture shock, with the, learning a new language, nothing close to my own. And still being in limbo as a refugee kid in the middle of nowhere with no parents. I was living with my aunt and uncle at the time.
And how old were you at that time?
I was 12.
You're 12. Wow.
So I had to grow up a little faster.
Moving from Iran to Spain when you're 12 alone?
But you know what? This is what I learned, that you can drink alcohol at any age you want. You can smoke at any age you want, and nobody tells you anything. There is no sign of you have to be over the age of a certain age to be able to purchase tobacco or alcohol. And I learned it pretty quickly that, the world is in my hand. I have to use it in a way that actually is going to benefit me. But I didn't find myself until I was 16, to be honest with you, when I first decided to move away from Spain. And I love Spain. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful country, beautiful people, fantastic language, amazing food, paellas, and, you name it, all the tapas you can have. But it wasn't for me. It wasn't for my growth. And especially as a pending refugee status kid, you couldn't really do anything. But I decided to come to Canada, and where they said, yeah, you can apply for refugee status because you still have the pending. You're allowed to. So I came to Canada, and it took about 6 years for them to grant me a status. For 6 years, again, go to school, try to work multiple jobs, from hot dog vendor in the first 2 weeks that I was here in Canada, next to Skydome on an illegal stance, until, I became a janitor in the, stock exchange market in Toronto, and then eventually, and on and on and on. So,
wow.
And a bartender, and I found my way to basically pay for my university when the accident happened. When the accident happened, I was planning to go to the U.S. because the scholarship was the most important thing, because I thought, all right, they're going to pay for everything that I'm going to do over there, especially the fact that it was full ride scholarship. But when that didn't happen, because I was broken in pieces and I had a major brain injury, which it was undetected, then I was left by myself in Canada with nothing to look forward to, and multiple medications that great doctors that were trying to help me with, obviously, but they didn't know what was going on, and I couldn't really describe the feelings that I had. I couldn't tell them why I was fainting every single day after that accident. I couldn't tell them when they did see me having a seizure in the hospital, but they were all in awe. It's like, hey, wait, MRI and CT scans of the brain were normal. There was no bleeding in the head. So this is not a brain injury issue, because back then there was no word of concussion.
Oh, really?
No, there wasn't. So concussion only belonged to shell shock syndrome, soldiers that would get blast-induced shell shocks or things of that sort. In the real medicine, the emergency medicine, you would have a brain injury if they found a skull fracture, for instance, or some level of blood accumulation in the brains. Otherwise, if you were conscious and you were blinking your eyes, you talked, chances were, and your MRI and CT scans were normal, there was no brain injury.
You get a Band-Aid and some pills,
Basically.
and you're good.
Basically, that was the approach. And unfortunately, 30 years later, you still see similarities of practice still today.
Hey guys, it's Kid. A few years ago in 2022, I discovered a guy named Lee Whitley.
Cancer is coming to a fucking end real fast. I go to dinner parties with doctors. Don't stop, you got it. You're fucking right, I got it. Tell the people I got it.
Go to kidcarson.com, you'll discover Lee's oil.
But now I see that doctors are paying a little bit more attention to concussion and the fact that not everything is going to be visible in CT scans or MRIs. It is more the functionality that is disrupted. And so now we know with the new age of neuroplasticity and brain and neuroscience, clinical neuroscience, we know that, concussions are metabolic distortions of the brain. And that's how we treat them. And that's the beauty of it. But I tell you, I was...
I'm not sure what that word means, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to that.
The cool thing about my journey through the accident that I had then I became the patient, until I became a doctor to treat these issues, I think, obviously, I went through a lot to figure out what's going on. However, just feeling all the symptoms that I had to go through, whether it was dizziness every single day, and then the massive headaches that I would wake up with, which I didn't want to wake up from my sleep because I knew I would have to deal with the headaches, or eventually becoming depressed because I couldn't play soccer anymore. And they told me, you can't play soccer anymore. Find another sport. Go play chess, my psychiatrist told me.
Oh, God. Oh.
And
that must have been pretty awesome to hear.
First of all, I didn't know what to tell him. Whether it was shocking to me that,
First of all, to call chess a sport. That's
thank you.
That's just crazy alone.
But knowing myself, I would definitely get injured playing chess too.
Right.
I would slide tackle someone. That's in me.
Yeah, when you're a soccer player, like, what else are you going to do that's like going to give you that same, kick? No pun intended. That's that same rush. You
that's
know what I mean?
Thing. In any sport, Kid, if you are identifying yourself with that sport, and it is who you are, and you take that away from that person, you left them very empty. Mm-hmm. You've left them just very empty as a young guy, in the society, especially knowing that this guy doesn't have his parents, doesn't have family here. He's just basically in limbo, waiting for that status to come through. So eventually you get a better job or go to university where you can apply for financial aid. So I didn't have that. And I had to work full-time, go to university. Eventually I went to McMaster University, which I love dearly. And I went there. I did 2 years of undergrad there in biology and life sciences. And I thought, well, McMaster has one of the best medical schools in Canada, so I would like to go there. I still didn't surrender. I thought I still can do it. But the first year comes in university, and I was feeling so off. I couldn't understand most of the things that the professors would say. And I thought there's something wrong with me. And this is a few years after the accident, a couple of years after the accident. And I thought, my command of English is going down. I'm unable to understand anything people say. This is not normal. See my psychiatrist for the accident, see the orthopedic surgeon, see the neurologist, the physio every single day. And they just said, this is the way it is right now. You just have to deal with it. You have to live with it. Maybe you shouldn't really become a medical doctor. Maybe you should go to social sciences. Maybe you should study music if it's okay. And I'm thinking, first of all, you took soccer away from me. Now you're going to take the most important goal in my life is to
at least they didn't say
doctor.
chess.
Go back to a hot dog vendor. Go back and sell hot dogs. I'm glad they didn't say that to me. And that was massive for me. So I didn't know. I was lost. That's when I became, and I have no shame of saying it, I have no problem with stating this, I became suicidal. I was already in many medications. I was taking a bunch of medications for pain, for anxiety, for depression, you name it, and for seizures. And I didn't know where else to go. Mm-hmm. And I decided to kind of pull the plug because I didn't have anything else to look forward to. 23 years old, 24 almost, and nothing else to look forward to. And I sat on the balcony. I was on the 22nd floor of my balcony once, and I thought, this is it. If I jump, there's no remnants of me. And I'm going to do it. Thankfully, maybe I wasn't ready. And I was looking for an excuse not to. But I looked down on the street. There was a gentleman who was homeless. He was always next to our building on Main and Danforth, Main and Danforth in Toronto. This gentleman, he was always sitting there with one leg, and he had the box that he was surrounding him, and then on the piece of box, he was just wrote down, any help is appreciated. And I didn't have enough money at the time. I was a student, I was a refugee, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, if I give him a loonie, back then we didn't have toonies. We still have the loonies.
Right.
It's like, if I give him a loonie, that's about 30% of my sandwich for lunch. So I'm not going to do it. Anyway, so I'm sitting on my balcony contemplating whether to jump off, what's going to happen to my mom, who's in Iran, what is she going to think, that her son committed suicide or whatever. And I saw this lady with a stroller going over the bridge that was next to our building. One of the bags dropped out of her stroller, and she kept going. The homeless gentleman hopped over, grabbed the bag, called the lady. The lady turned around, came over to the guy. So she took the box, she took the bag, and then took some stuff out of it and put some other things in it, gave it to the man, and opened her purse, gave him some money, and whatever they said, I couldn't hear. I'm on the 22nd floor, but I can see the enormous response from this guy who relies on everybody else's help. But he had this act of kindness, of goodness, and the lady paid him more than that. And as I'm contemplating this and sitting down, trying to jump off and finish it because I can't go to medical school, I can't play soccer anymore, and this guy with one leg, I felt embarrassed. I felt ashamed of myself for surrendering so quickly. And that's when I turned around. I went inside in my studio apartment. Luckily, my roommates weren't there. I cried my head off, and I fell asleep for a few hours. Woke up. I said, no more. I'm going to be my own advocate. I'm going to find out what is going on. I am going to help me get to the next level. I'm not going to listen to anyone who says, you can't do this, you can't do that. Nobody's inside me. Nobody knows what I'm going through. They're just looking at a book, look at the symptom. It's like, oh, you have this or you have that. Well, I don't know what you have. Take this medication. Let's see what happens. We'll monitor you in 6 months. It's like, I'm not going to go through that anymore. So I changed it. Wow. And that's how I went back to university, and I got exposed to this amazing chiropractor who my soccer coach at McMaster, Tom Casey, it's like, look, you're on the bench, you're always in pain, you're dealing with all these things. I have you on the bench simply because you were a scholarship holder, and I want you to be here and see if you can help out the other kids, because you're older, obviously, than the normal 18-year-old, 19-year-old that comes to university this first year. And so I want you to kind of be here. But go see this doctor, Dr. Robert Thurlow, in Hamilton, Ontario. And I go, it's like, what does he do? It's like, well, a lot of the kinesiology department kids, they usually go see him for their body tune-up. Maybe he can help you. So I go to this doctor. Quite interesting. He takes an x-ray, specific x-ray of my head and neck. I've had probably like 20 x-rays of my neck beforehand. CT scans, MRIs, everything was normal according to the medical model. And this gentleman looks at it, comes out, is like, did you ever have seizures or epilepsy in the past when you were a kid? I was like, no, but I had it, second day I was in the hospital after my incident. Unfortunately, I did not fill out the forms properly. So anywhere that it says seizure, blackouts, this and that, I just crossed it out because I thought, all right, I've been to like 200 doctors, 200 specialists. This guy doesn't address that. I just heard that this is for the back and the neck, maybe for the neck. So I just crossed out things that are not pertinent to him.
Why waste my time?
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
That's the way I thought. And so he looks at it, it's like, well, you failed to disclose the full information here. I guess you're not ready to get better. He closed my file. He gave it to me. It's like, you're not ready. When you're ready, you come back. Adios. I'm like, wait, Dr. Thurl, I truly apologize. I'm so sorry. I just didn't know that was. It's like, no, listen, you're not ready. When you're ready, you come back. And Holly, bless her soul, she was the front desk. It's like, yeah, Dr. Thurl is not going to see you today. Get out. So I'm in awe. I said, one question. How did you figure out that I had a seizure when I was a kid through an x-ray of the skull and the neck? That's really strange to me. It's like, well, again, when you're ready fully, I'll take you back and explain it to you. So they didn't take me in for another 3 days, and I really had to lobby hard for me to go back in.
Wow.
It was incredible.
Your curiosity was so piqued.
I could not believe somebody actually would say that. But this guy, after 3 days, I go back to him. He explained the nervous system to me. What is the relationship between the spine and the nervous system? And the nervous system is extended to the brain. It's not just the nerves that go to the hands and the legs. When you have back pain and you have neck pain, it's not just that. It's the brain. Who you are. How do you manifest yourself? Where do you see yourself in space? Where do you see the environment with respect to your body? This is all the job that the brain and the nervous system do every single millisecond of your life. They keep updating that information visually, through taste, through smell, through hearing, through every senses, the tactile. You're constantly upgrading this map in the brain for you to know who you are, where you are, what you're capable of doing, so you'll always survive. The whole job of the brain is survival. And if there's something erroneous in it, it will turn on your fight or flight response constantly. It's like, yeah, we're going to be on the survival mode until we figure out what is going on, until you get the treatment.
Because we hear the term survival mode all the time.
Exactly.
We don't understand scientifically how it's connected like that.
For sure. It's beautiful. And I see it every single day in my practice. And I've been doing functional neuroplasticity work, clinical neuroscience work for the past 21 years. And every single day I learn something new from a new patient. Because no two brains are the same. No two concussions are the same. No two dysautonomias are the same. Everybody manifests these symptoms very differently.
Hey, it's Kid. First of all, I'm so grateful you're here listening to this episode. I'd love to be able to share announcements with you, events, things coming up. Please join my email list from kidcarson.com.
And I tell you, it's beautiful how you can actually extrapolate a lot of this information. So, yeah, this fight or flight response is your sympathetic nervous system. There's the scientific term for it is sympathetic activation. Fantastic, great. But what it means is that the time that your brain does not know where your head is in space, because let's say you had a concussion, in my case, where I was fainting a lot, where I had seizures, we found out that because of the fact that I was dizzy every single day, and every time I look down, look up, I would see the whole world shift. That was the time that my brain would have to upgrade that visual map, and it had a hard time adjusting to see what it is that I'm actually seeing. It couldn't label it as whatever I was looking at. It would see everything, and it would it's like, okay, based on prior experiences, Ash now is looking at that moving car. But I don't know. My brain is like, I don't know if the car is moving to the left of Ash or the environment is moving to the right of Ash. Okay, so that's where the collision happens in the brain, and that's where people feel dizzy. And when you turn on your fight or flight responses, because the brain's like, I don't know what's going on. So let me go and turn on the primitive response of survival and increase the heart rate and sweat a little bit more, make the muscles tighter in the flexor tone, and I'm going to cause a little bit of anxiety. So I know I don't have to go and pet this cat because it may not be a cat, it may be a tiger. Right? And so that's what the brain is going through constantly on a daily basis when people are suffering from vestibular issues, concussions, dysautonomias, longer COVID patients that you're going to see now that we're treating beautifully, and we can bring them back to a level of normalcy they've never seen before, never experienced before with anything else out there. We are treating people with movement disorders, people with Parkinson's, with dementias. And I'm not saying that these are not claims that I'm making that we're fixing them. We're giving them a quality of life back that nothing else has been up to this point. Concussions, vestibular issues, dysautonomias, we do an amazing job. We get them back to work. We get them to a level of functionality that they can function the way they want to. They may have certain symptoms here and there, but it's not going to impede them from being themselves and function in the society. Okay, that's one of the beauties of my work, because it makes me smile every single day at work. You can't wipe the smile off my face when you come to the clinic. I just can't, because
That's true. I've been there. I've been there a few times. I get it. Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun
True.
to be able to change people's lives like this with the things that we can do. Chiropractically, we have kinesiology that they're doing a lot of neuro rehab. But I'm not the kind of person that you would send your back pain patients to. It's like, I know there are a lot of amazing chiropractors and physiotherapists out there that they do a better job when it comes to a musculoskeletal work than me. I am your neuro rehab guy. If you're dealing with, let's say, anxiety, and you've been dealing with anxiety medications, and you're still the same way that you were before you started your medications, listen, medications have a place in this world, right? Some patients do need it. But let's look at the causation of this issue. So when I test the patients, usually you've gone through it, 3 hours of test, minimum. Otherwise, I won't be able to figure out what is going on with you. So the 3 hours assessment, we look at your eye movement, we look at your balance, we challenge your balance, we look at your speed of reaction time, we look at your neck movement, we look at the way you perceive your head in the dark and your eyes in the darkness. We test every single thing that your brain does and wants to do.
You got a lot of cool toys for that too.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. When I first walked in there, I'm like, does Batman live here? Like, what's going on? There's a just giant gyroscopic sort of thing in one office through a glass wall.
You're right.
And then VR headsets and big screens and all sorts of different things happening. Yeah, it was quite a process, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's, you have to advance. I'm not the kind of guy who wait and say, all right, what am I allowed to do? What's the typical thing that Canada allows to bring in as a neurotechnology for advancement of diagnosis and helping my patients? I can't wait. I look at it. I talk to the College of Chiropractors. I talk to the boards. Like, hey, listen, I want to bring this piece of equipment. I want to do an assessment. And what do you think? Is this something out of my scope? It's like, well, we don't have anything against it. It's like, great, I'm going to do it. And if it helps me diagnose my patients the right way, I'll use it. The moment I see the science comes out and it refutes it, just like, bloodletting was science at some point.
Right.
Using
medieval times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was science at some point, and leeching was another science back then.
Right.
But now they're barbaric. So, hey, you know what? You use what you have in your hand right now, whatever tool you have, to improve patients' ability to return to normal life. And then, hey, if somebody says, yeah, this tool doesn't, it's no longer scientific or it's been refuted, we'll put it away. But the Batman gyroscope that you mentioned is called Gyrostem, and I remember when Dr. Carrick was working with Sid Crosby on his, for his concussion, he put him in there. And you spun them multiple times, gentle spins at the beginning, and eventually you start, making your way up to different, rotations, and you put the brain and the body in a different position where you are looking at targets and you start hitting targets as you're spinning, and from 1 RPM to 30 RPM. Wow. So working with elite athletes, for instance, that they've already had concussion, that they get better. Now we train them, no names, but there are players here in this town that I come in and they get trained, because when you go into that position in that chair and you're strapped down and you spin at a high intensity and circulating around, going upside down while you have 4 different targets and a laser pin in your hand, and you're hitting targets and you hear the beep in different positions that you are with that different speed, it gives your brain a phenomenal input, sensory input from your vestibular senses, but also allows you to see beyond your normal, blind spot. So if you increase the athlete's blind spot further, when I say increase, improve it, you can see what's going on pretty much at a different angle behind you, so you don't get hit hard on the ice. You know something is coming because you can see it faster than before. And
it's so wild, man, because we've all seen like replays of incredible sports moments, where like, let's say a hockey player just somehow grabs a puck out of midair and swings it around behind their back and does something crazy. And you go, how is that even human? We've all seen a thing like that where we go, that is not normal. Like, and sometimes you chalk it up to like it's luck. Because it's so crazy. You go, oh, that guy really got lucky there. Good for him.
Honestly, these guys do so much.
But with what you're talking about, you can increase your blind spot and you're spinning upside down and you can, if you can hit targets with a laser while you're upside down spinning at a crazy speed. Yeah. It's crazy. This is how they're doing it.
It's fascinating. Yeah. There are a lot of, everybody talks about biohacking, which is great. Fine. I do it. But for me, biohacking is like, how can I increase my BDNFs or brain-derived neurotrophic factors, for instance, in my blood through certain foods or certain supplements? How much can I sleep? What is my deep sleep like? And how much repair I can have during my deep sleep? And so based on that, I'm biohacking because now I increase my BDNF. So when I do some neuroplasticity workouts, if I'm standing in front of the big TV and then targets are appearing and I have to do it as fast as I can while I'm standing and challenging my balance, I'm standing on one foot on a foam that I have to really challenge my entire neural axis, then it fires up dopamine. It fires up a lot of neurotransmitters that you are going to neuroplasticize, right? Then you increase the synaptogenesis, which means improves the affinity of two neurons in the brain to connect together and then read each other, and they kiss each other and they love each other. And the next time you want to do it, these two guys are already sharing a kiss or sharing hands or holding hands. So it makes things a lot faster. And so that's the kind of stuff that we do with neurocognitive performance for some of the athletes. And we're starting. I'm starting to create programs for the military personnel because these are, obviously they have to be quick. God forbid there's an ambush, they have to quick to respond. Decision making is really, really important and an instant with where you are. So these are the people we have to fix what they have had before, like post-concussive syndromes that they had from before, or errors and signaling in their brain stem, brain and neural pathways. We correct those errors for them, and they put them through the VR program where they have to have like a fast speed of reaction and find figures in the sky and then quickly respond to it with the goggles on them. So these are the things that we do for them. And then we challenge them. If they're hockey players or whitecap players and stuff like that, we'll do it with them. But it's fascinating. Sky is the limit. The brain is the only organ in the body that can change. And we see it every single day in our practice. And again, I think sometimes when I don't feel great about a result of a particular patient, I go to Google, I read one of our reviews.
To remind you.
To remind me who we are, what we do, and why these people write so much about their experiences with us at the Canadian Brain Performance and Neuroplasticity in Vancouver. Why? And I read, and sometimes I cry because I feel like, thank you, God. Thank you, universe, for letting me be part of this, letting me change these people's lives, which affects everyone else around them. It's not just the patient. It's their husband, it's their wives, is their kids, is the grandparents, that they get affected by the issues that they're dealing with. And so when we see them, I think it's so powerful. I love it. I tell you, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, since the moment I met you, I'm like, this guy has a big why. And today's the first time I've heard your full story of like why you do what you do.
I appreciate it.
It's unbelievable. And the other thing was a real moment like that happened to me when I was in your clinic the other week, and you were describing, because you did the whole test on me, in the dark, the laying on in a certain position and getting your body and you looked at the results, and I had like a twitch We can talk about my stuff on the show if you want.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
I won't go too deep into it.
You're like, you are so messed up, dude. But like, no, you can show like, okay, there's some twitching in this eye.
Yeah.
When you're laying down and your head is turned and you're looking at, in the darkness.
Yeah.
And you're like, so do you have a little bit of tightness in your like neck over here? Yeah. You're like, yeah, your brain. You can probably describe it better. You're like your body's making up for
Exactly
something happening in your brain.
Yeah.
And it's probably like, in our case, I think you gently told me, I think I asked you, because you're like, we don't diagnose people. We just tell you what's going on and how we can fix it. And I'm like, am I really anxious? Do I have some anxiety, stress? You're like, yeah. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's me.
yeah, it was good. But yeah, because it's been just a wild time in my life.
Sure.
Like just separation, new co-parenting, just figuring out a new career, all these things,
100%.
So yeah, my body's a little bit twitched out, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what the medical term is for that. But you're like, yeah, I can see it in this eye. For me, it was like, wow, it's amazing that something happening in our brain is affecting little stiffness in our
100%.
body. And that's just the beginning.
That's just the beginning.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, when they don't know what's going on with their brains, they just basically fall in this loop, wound up. They keep going, and they, eventually things break down. And they go to the doctor, and the doctor listens to the symptom, the new symptom, never the old symptom, because you didn't even know you had a symptom. You just know that you were on this treadmill going fast. You thought you were running to reach your destination, but you were on the treadmill. There is no destination. You're just running. Okay? And so as a result of that, imagine you're running for a day on the treadmill. At some point, your muscles are going to fatigue. Your joints are going to fatigue. You start getting, you go out of oxygen, and then you may faint, or you're just going to have the following day, you're going to have pain elsewhere. This pain is coming from that area of the brain that is lacking oxygenation or glucose, etc.
Hey guys, it's Kid. I know a lot of you know this. Some of you don't, though. I mean, government money is fiat. Gold is real money. When you learn the difference, your jaw will drop. Start your Salmoney wallet. Trust me, now is the time to start getting hip with this stuff. Salmoney wallet is expanding to more countries every week. People are moving their savings out of the big banks and they're moving them into a Salmoney wallet. But why? It's physical metals, not paper promises, okay? You can access it instantly, liquidate it if you need to in a pinch, buy, sell, all online. It's unbelievable. And it's physical gold and silver. Find the details in the show notes or just go to kidcarson.com/gold.
And so people, when they go through super stressful situations in their lives, which is a lot of people these days, for whatever reason, you look at it politically, religiously, wars, with the government doing this or that, you can always find areas that is going to increase your stress and your work, the tariffs, this, that, right? You name it.
Even the little TVs in my elevator in my building. Like whenever I get on the elevator and there's someone else on the elevator, I always make the same dad joke, like, "Oh, there's the bad news screen.
It's crazy
with all the bad news." And
why would they have it?
we're just pumped. Yeah, it's never and even on a slow bad news story, they will find a bad story like abandoned kittens found in box inside of a highway. That's a real thing from a month ago, and I went,
Those are fillers. Those are fillers.
Bad news fillers.
Yeah, because you can't really have a good news, between bad news and a bad news. You have to have another bad news to bridge it.
Right. So we are inundated constantly.
Phenomenally.
So no wonder our nervous systems are just flared up constantly.
Yes, and I tell you this, I don't think I've taught this anywhere else because I teach a lot in Spain, in the US, and in Canada, all the functional neurology, clinical neuroscience stuff. I never said it. But there's a lot of studies now that shows chronic stress in people, it can resemble post-concussive syndromes.
Really?
Yeah. Because when you're under stress, you have a barrage of cortisol and glucocorticoids in your blood, which is going to create this affinity for the neurons in the brain to release calcium or accept calcium so they can bubble up. So the calcium influx into the cell and around the cell causes harmful damages and it allows the oxidation of a lot of this nutrients around the brain. And when something oxidizes, just like your apple or your banana, people just throw it out. But the brain cannot throw it out. It's like, oh, shoot, I have to fix this. It oxidizes or creates lesser affinity for this energy powerhouses inside the neurons called mitochondria to become deficient. And mitochondria is the producer of ATP, which is your energies of the cells to function. So imagine this. A cell, just inside your own home, you have an energy producer for light, right? And then you have a dimmer. You don't pay the electricity, and the light, you have to dim it because you only have some wattage that you can use per day, right? Because you don't have the money, you can't pay for that. That's a stress in the household. You can't cook, you can't use your microwave, you can't use your fridge as much as you want. So a lot of functionalities go down. You have to shrink them. You can't use the big fridge, you have to have a smaller fridge. And so if you have 5 people in your household, like I do with 3 kids and my wife, I need a big fridge. But if I have to bring in smaller fridge, I can only feed them so much. And so the full functionality of that household is going to go down, just like a neuron or cell is going to go down when you have too much calcium. It causes oxidation, which means it diminishes the function of that cell. Diminishing the function means that you can't really take the oxygen. You can't give oxygen to the cell as much. You can't produce the ATP, which is the energy for every cell to lift for you, to think for you, to move your arm, to move your joints, to run away from the predator, or to think cognitively or remember. When those functions go down, you're toast as a human. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So as a result of this issue of a stress that increased your cortisol, all these things can happen. And that's one of the most important things that I've discovered, but I was studying so much when I went back to, when I was doing my fellowship in functional neurology and clinical neuroscience. I always knew there was something missing in this whole thing. And I couldn't pinpoint to what it was. And then I thought, I heard so many times, we are what we eat. It's like, okay, what does that mean? That's the fuel that you're getting. So if you're eating something, the protein, the carbs, the fat, it's going to be isolated. Your body is going to use it differently and assembles the required proteins for communication called neurotransmitters. It creates enzymes for digestion. It creates, it takes the amino acids from your, whatever protein you're eating to assemble it to make something different for functionality of the body. The body is amazing. It takes all those information, assembles it to something that it needs for its functionality, for survival, always to survival. And if you don't eat the right stuff, then pretty much is garbage in, garbage out. Your cognition goes down the drain. Your memory goes down the drain. And then, you can go and say, you know what? I'm 52 years old, and cognitively, I'm not where I was a few years back. But I think I still have another 20 years to go. I don't think I can do it like this with this brain. I don't remember where I put my glasses, my keys. Sometimes I stutter when I want to recall some word. Those things are happening. These are very common in the society nowadays. And just a bracket that I'm going to open, a lot of it is associated with our diet, mostly carbohydrates. That we're over-consuming the carbohydrates and leaving less for the good fats and the protein that our body needs. Okay, so as a result of that, when I figured out that nutrition is a really important thing, and I was in 20 different supplements for my brain, I thought something is missing. I better go back and figure out something with this. And I took on the metabolic medicine, and I started looking around what are the best programs, and I happened to be in the right place at the right time, and I got my education with heavyweight people such as Mark Hyman, Dr. Perlmutter. These are like phenomenal guys, GI specialists who turned functional medicine. So I started doing functional medicine. I studied functional medicine for about 2 years' time that I took those courses to figure out what I can do for myself and eventually for my patients. Because I really wanted to improve my cognition. I wanted to improve my memory. That biohacking we were talking earlier, I wanted to do all that stuff, but I didn't know where to go. And so I went back to school, studied all those things, and I got into the idea of, I'm taking all these 20 plus supplements. Am I even digesting them when I take in so much? Does my body even like it? Probably not, because I feel the same way after a year of using some of these supplements. Yeah, maybe, I did some blood tests before and after, some urine tests before and after some of the supplements. There was not much of a change, but it wasn't changing my behavior, my thought process. It wasn't making me sharper the way I was before the accident. So I thought, you know what? I have to get off these supplements. I'm going to start formulating something that is going to help me. So it took me about 9 years to come up with the formulation, the perfect formula that works for me, for my post-concussive issues, for my memory, for my cognition, for my sleep issues that I was dealing with. And then 2 years ago, I gave that formula. I shared it with a great patient of mine who inspired me to bring it to the market. We, of course, with the managing director of Pure Pharmacies, Bob Mayer, and then Sharon Duguid, these are my partners. They pushed me to bring this formula to light and help as many people as we can. Because I just hated to dispense supplements, like 5, 6, 7 supplements to people. I just felt bad because I was on 20 plus of them and I didn't see much of a difference. So I just couldn't live with myself. Like, you know what? You have the knowledge. You better get on to work, find something, create something, help your patients.
Yeah.
And I finally, Health Canada approved it a couple of years ago. And then we went into production. Now it's called Seroflex, AMPM. It's, and I take it religiously because it's my own making. And after all these years, so it really took 12 years, full 12 years to actually bring it to market. And I didn't want to cut corners. Everything is sourced in Canada. I didn't want to go somewhere else because just in case, I wanted to be based in Canada, made in Canada, and formulated in Canada. And so we can actually disseminate this throughout the world and help as many people with brain injuries or cognitive issues, memory issues. These are like, the AM is one thing because we are different people in the morning during the light than PM when there's no light. Our hormones are different in the morning than at night. Our neurotransmitters levels are very different during the day than during the nighttime. So I took that concept and I started looking to see what are the formulations, what are the combinations, synergistic combinations that can help. I looked around. I studied all these formulas that are out there, 4,000 or 5,000 formulas that they claim that heal the brain. And I took some of them. And I was like, this doesn't change anything. They didn't change my brain pathways. They didn't change my blood markers. And so the claim shouldn't be there. But what I tried to do, I thought there's one thing missing out of all these formulas out there. Nobody actually addresses the energy levels of the brain. 2 sources of energy in the brain. Oxygen, glucose. When you have a concussion, when you have a neurological disorder of any sort, whether it is dementia or Alzheimer's, dysautonomia, there's neurogenic, post-concussive syndrome, Parkinson's, or other movement disorders, anything, you can always bet that the glucose regulation in the brain, which is the fuel source, is disrupted. If you don't fix your Ferrari, you don't put the right fuel in your Ferrari, you won't be able to use it on the road. It looks beautiful in your garage, but you won't be able to use it. So a lot of those formulas out there, unfortunately, offered a lot of great stuff where it kind of cleans your Ferrari from outside, but nothing addresses the fuel delivery inside that makes you run the right way, like a Ferrari. And to me, your brain, my brain, they're Ferraris because they're just amazing. They're spectacular things, Well,
you brought in some of this here. I'm going to throw it up on the cam if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify. And you came in, you're like, yeah, this is a gift for you, which I was super pumped about because I'd heard about this.
Yes.
And you're like, yeah, we don't have to bring it up today. We'll just talk about, my story and like how I'm passionate about helping people. I'm like, dude, with the knowledge you've got,
I appreciate that.
Are you thinking that we're not going to like get this up on the cam?
Honestly, that was not my intent. I hate doing sales.
I know, but like with all the big words you've just used in the last 10 minutes, you're damn right I want to try the pill from the supplement from the dude
Right.
who knows all that you know. So this is pretty cool, man.
So there are 2 bottles in it.
Okay, yeah.
So there are 2 bottles. One is AM bottle. The other one is PM bottle.
Okay.
The AM must be taken after breakfast or after food. You take 2 and you're just done. You go on your day. Nighttime, PM, preferably 2 hours before your dinner or before your sleep. You take 2 to 4 with or without food. It takes about 3 to 4 days for you to feel the effect, but you will definitely feel the effect.
And you'll feel it in your brain.
Oh, you feel the sharpness. You feel the sharpness.
You'll feel the sharpness.
And it doesn't have any substances that are illegal. So there are some of my patients that are in the professional sports do take it. We already tested all that stuff, and there's nothing that is illegal. There is, there's certain things that I can't talk about, of course, as a chiropractor in BC. If I was in the US, I'm a physician. I'm a primary care physician.
That's when you know it's good.
You know,
when you can't fully just throw it out there, what's in there. You've taken it right up to the line, legally, right up to the line. Right?
Absolutely. Look, there's Health Canada approved it. It's like, okay, great, no problem. And I do it. My kids do it. My family does it.
Yeah.
They all have to.
Oh, that's so funny, dude.
Yeah. They have to be sharp.
Right.
They have to be sharp.
Yeah.
It's a dog eat dog out there. You need your brain.
Well, you don't spend 12 years and then not come out with like the most potent thing you can come up with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, I can't wait to.
I hate cutting corners.
Yeah.
I could. That's one of the reasons I could not release it. It's like, no. If the ingredients are coming from another country and I can't figure out, I don't have quality assurance on those, I'm not going to go for it because this is going to go into my body and my kid's body.
Yeah.
It's not about the money. It's about me, how am I going to feel, how my patients are going to feel, because that's the best way you can propagate a product, your services, whatever, is a word of mouth. That's the thing. So when I came in, I was like, you know what? I don't want to talk about it. And it's like, what are you talking about? You're going to be talking about this. And it's been so far, with all the reviews that we were getting with the patient feedback, it's been spectacular. I'm so happy. I feel more achieved than before. I feel so fulfilled.
So it's not just if you've had a concussion.
No.
It's just brain health overall.
It's brain health.
But you've noticed like significant. It's designed for someone who like your brain is damaged.
You got it. And so because, as I mentioned, if you have stress, which most people have stress, your brain does act like as if it has post-concussive syndromes. With the fogginess, with memory, slowing down your memory, your synapses get slower. You feel like, I'm not feeling the same way as I was. Mm-hmm. Those are the product of this stressful situation and the synapses that are affected in the brain. So the Seraflex AM/PM does replace a lot of stuff, a lot of isolated. So because the morning you have a bunch of neurotransmitters, the precursor to the neurotransmitters that affect you during the day, that keep you sharp. But the trick in this one, my wife always tells me to tell everyone everything about everything. Try to be a little more discreet. So let me see. Let me be more careful so I don't sleep on the couch tonight. It addresses your brain glucose levels in a beautiful way. So it regulates some things in the brain. I can't even say that because that's false claim according to Health Canada. But FDA said, no, you're fine. I'm going to give you a description.
You can speak in code.
Right.
We'll pick up the...
Perfect.
Okay.
I got it. This is going to be better. So I'm not going to make any claims as to what is it going to do, but I can tell you that if you use ketones as a source of energy for your brain, you're much better off than if you used glucose. Because a lot of times, I'm going to give you a description. If you walk around, if you're in do something like I do in chiropractic world, you look at everyone's posture. And you're going to notice that a lot of people are on their phones, they're stooped down. So, you're sitting down and watching all these people. There's nothing over their head is not above their neck. They're always below their chest levels. The head is falling into their lap. So imagine what happens. You're compressing the rib cage. The lungs get compressed. Your capacity to oxygenation goes down. So if you're not oxygenating the nervous system, the body, your brain gets fatigued very quickly. So then your brain says, dude, you took away oxygen from me, like gallons and gallons and gallons of oxygen from me every day. So I need to go to the second fuel source, which is glucose. So then it starts giving you craving for cake, croissant, pasta, rice, and all kinds of other things, because people are like, oh, I love carbs, because that's the reason why. You're deprived of oxygen. And so those carbs will give you the serotonin that you need to feel happy. But that's a problem. So you're using glucose constantly from the carbs, which is not really the best source of energy. Oxygen is the best source. Glucose, it has to be there. But there's the second energy for the brain that is ketones. That instead of,
before you say, so there's a connection between us being hunched over our phones
Posture.
can make you crave cake.
100%. 100%.
It's so wild.
That
makes sense when you break it down.
Yeah. So this is another thing that happens. There was a study done by Stanford University, and I remember Tony Robbins was talking about it in his UPW Unleash the Power Within that I went to a few years back. I already did a seminar on posture and brain health before that, like about 10 years ago. But I didn't have that much of a data that I wanted for testosterone, for serotonin, things like that. Then Tony Robbins goes on and puts this study on. I was like, look what happens to your testosterone when you're stooped down. But as soon as you bring your posture up by about 2 to 3 millimeters, you increase your testosterone by 20 to 30%.
Okay,
that's important, because that increase in testosterone in men also increases your serotonin levels in the body. Serotonin happens to be your happy kind of hormone and neurotransmitter, but it also is the biggest pain suppressor in the body. If you have adequate amount of serotonin from your midbrain area and the pontine area of the brainstem, that's a pain suppression factor. A lot of people don't have that much, so they're always in chronic pain. So they have to give them, what do they get depressed for? Because they don't have enough serotonin. And so you have to give them SSRIs, because everybody who has had chronic pain, chances are, at least in the US, is more than 60% of people are on some SSRIs for antidepressant medication. Because you think, all right, you know what? There's less serotonin here because you're depressed because of pain. Now, you know what? If I'm not producing enough serotonin, I'm going to be in pain most of the time. As a result, if I don't have enough serotonin, I'm going to be depressed most of the time. So let's do something very simple. You want biohacking? Cheap? Actually, no, free. Sit upright. Maintain your posture upright. And then the moment you go on your phone, try your best not to be on it too long. Okay? Posture is very important for oxygenation and increasing your testosterone and serotonin levels. Very, very important. You can pick out people who have good posture in a crowd than people who are just like, they're stooped down. It's like, this guy's depressed. I have mountains of information that I can share with them. It's like, please get yourself out of this doom and gloom that you're living in by just standing upright. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to see a chiropractor. You don't have to see an acupuncturist or physio. This is all in your hand. Do it. So taking that serotonin, that glucose, that ketone, all those things that I was thinking about, I put in the Seraflex. I was like, okay, you know what? What would happen during the day to increase the ketone and reduce that craving of glucose and sugar? So I was able to master the dosage that worked for me. It's like, oh, this is great. I don't want pizza. I don't want a cake. I don't want sandwich with this focaccia bread, right?
Oh, dude, stop!
You're getting hungry? I know. This is a test for you.
Because I'm not on this yet.
Take it. That's awesome. It's fascinating. The brain health is fascinating. I haven't even started after 21 years. I feel like I have so much more to learn, so much more to do for people. I'm just excited every day.
Wow. Okay, so how bad am I?
You're not that bad. You're not that bad.
Out of 10 being the worst, 1 being you're perfect, am I like 5?
You're 5.
I'm 5?
You're 5 because there was only the test that you said. It's called video oculography. We put the goggles on you. You're in the dark. Your eyes are open, and we put you in different positions of the head. Not because you're feeling dizzy. That's a test for people who feel dizzy. They have nystagmus, or they have what is called benign paroxysmal vertigo. Okay, you didn't have that. Most people don't have that. But we test what do your eyes do in the dark, because that's what the brain does in the dark, when your head is in a particular position. That position that you were in on the right side shows that the signal from the neck joint receptors into the brain stem, into the vestibular system, which is the gyroscope of the brain, is not feeding the right information to the brain. As a result, when the brain says, oh, I have to fire the eyes, what is called nystagmus, your eyes were moving fast to one side, slow to another side. So we take that information and we kind of decipher it in a different way. We say, all right, you know what? You weren't feeling dizzy when you were in that position, but your eyes, as you saw, they were twitching, as you said. They're called nystagmus, fast-paced movement to one side. That's not a normal behavior of the brain, okay, in that position. So then we see that the patterns that the brain is perceiving your head in space is not the adequate space. Your brain sees your head a little bit to the left. So as a result of that, when your eyes are closed and you're walking straight, you start going to one side instead of straight. You bias one thing. You bias the tightness of the muscles of the neck because the brain says, dude, if I don't get the information from the right side vestibular system to know where the head is in space, I'm going to rely on the secondary messenger. That secondary messenger is the upper cervical spine, upper neck area. So the brain signals down to the joint receptors of the upper cervical and cervical area number 1 and number 2, where all your suboccipital muscles are there to rotate your head, sends a signal constantly. It's like, hey, tighten up. I need to figure out where the head is exactly located so I can calculate the head movement to the right, to the left. So if I'm crossing the street and I can't go turn to the right, I can only go to the left, and a car comes from the right side, I don't get hit. Survival mechanism.
Survival.
Okay? So those are the things that happen. And so as a result of this tightness in the neck that you developed because of the stress that you've been going through, that your brain is acting as if it had, let's say, post-concussive syndrome, even though your concussion was 20 years ago, your brain is compensating constantly. And that compensation is costly. Costly with a fuel that you have to spend a lot more to fuel your car constantly than you would, generally speaking, require to do. So you have to feed it constantly. And guess what? The majority of North Americans are overfed the wrong thing. And that's because it's the excess fuel that we need, and everybody else is doing carbohydrates
to keep going, to make up for it.
You got it. So it's a vicious cycle that breaks down the neurogenesis, and then people have a hard time coming out of this issue, and they can't figure it out, and they see specialist after specialist, and God bless every specialist soul here in this country. Everybody is one symptom, one visit. But to me...
And then pills.
And pills.
Yeah.
Or, sometimes diet. Thanks, if you're lucky. But here's the deal. You're not one symptom. Kid is made of every single organ in the body. And if I compartmentalize you in pieces, I fail. And that's what we see today, unfortunately. But there are a lot of amazing doctors out there that they mean good. They want to do the best for their patients, but they can't.
Okay, so if you were talking about me behind my back at a dinner party, anonymously, you're like, I'm not going to name my patients, but I've got this one patient. He's got a twitchy eye, and he's got a stressful handful of years. What would you say to that person about me, anonymously, of course, because you're a doctor, and a gentleman? What would you say would happen to me if I went untreated?
Great. That's a fantastic question.
And if it's too abrasive, I'll just cut this out of the interview.
Sounds good.
If it's too embarrassing.
I will never go that far. So I would tell people, like, you know what, this patient of mine who's, exhibiting all these symptoms that he doesn't know because he's going through so much stress in his life, if it's untreated, it is going to be walking in the cognitive impairment world soon. Okay? We can call it mild cognitive impairment. We can call it later stages dementia at some point, until somebody labels you with something. And again, as I told you, I don't label people. I want to find dysfunctionalities, fix them right in there before anybody else attaches that label to them.
Because once you go and you get a diagnosis from a doctor,
Yeah.
and they say, "Oh, you are this,
You got
or
it.
you have this,"
You know what happens.
then you're on a path of medications and all sorts of things.
Even if they give you medications and it helps you, you will own that diagnosis for the rest of your life. You will not separate from that diagnosis. That's the biggest challenge for physicians and myself at times, to disconnect people from that diagnosis. You are not your encephalopathy. You are not your concussion. You are not your dysautonomia. You are not your vestibular errors. You're not that.
Is it because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy?
Yes.
You just start acting how you believe?
Well, you start believing that after some time, someone said you have this, and that person is in the position of authority, and you trust them with it, and then you accept that, and you take their treatments to heart, and you should. You should always trust your doctors, but always have a second opinion. Don't, your health is your health. You have to be your own advocate. Nobody else is. That doctor is only using his knowledge, whether new, contemporary, or whatever it is, to treat what he has observed, he or she has observed. And, this diagnosis is associated with certain medications, certain therapies that is going to recommend you. At the end of the day, all they know is this. There are other things out there that you should investigate. And I'm not talking about voodoo things. I'm talking about complementary medicine that existed before modern and organized medicine existed. Acupuncture, Chinese medicine. My wife was she's no longer practicing it in California. She was a Chinese medicine and acupuncture doctor. She was doing amazing, and then when I learned the stuff from her, I was like, oh my God, this thing is 4,000 years old. Before Hippocrates came up with that idea of modern medicine, right? And so use other things out there, but do your own advocacy. And that's important. So I would say, if that's what they're putting you on, that's not the only thing you should be on. There is always this idea that I always say, you are what you eat. If you don't fix your diet, I don't care how many supplements like Seriflex, how many medications you're taking, how many life-saving exercises you're going to do, you're not going to be the same. You're not going to be able to get the full scope improvement. And that's what I always say. That's one of the reasons I have naturopathic physicians in my clinic. I have a medical doctor who's a physician who does functional medicine. Her assessments are an hour and a half long. Which GP you go to that spends more than 7.5 minutes with you? How do you know what this person is going through in 5 to 7 minutes? You don't. You just know some symptoms, and then you have to use your brain to quickly come up with something. Again, I'm not dissing any medical doctor. I love them. I work with them. I employed 17 of them. Physiatrists, neurologists, orthopedic surgeons. I love what they do. But collectively, as a team, we can do better for our patients than one isolated doctor.
Yeah, you can blame the system above that funds and trains and rewards the doctors.
Yeah.
I think doctors go into what they're doing because they're good people. They want to help.
Absolutely, 100%.
But then you're in a system.
I have a bunch of them with me.
Yeah.
I know.
And you're in a system then, and it's like, wait a second, you got to stay in the system or else you're canned.
Exactly.
With hundreds of $1,000s of debt. Like,
exactly.
You're going to just play by the rules.
You can't do that. You can't say that. These doctors generally want to make do the best for their patients. But if the system says you can only do A and B and C, if you do D, E, F, you'll be audited. You'll be reprimanded. And if that's the case, if I love my work and I have, kids in college that I have to pay for, I have a mortgage to pay for, I have a car that I have to pay for,
A and B looks pretty good.
A and B is totally fine. You know what? You're to take this for A, take this for B.
Unless you win the lottery, then you can be one of those badass cowboy doctors who's like, no, D all day. And
at the end of the day, I always say, you are what you eat. Fix your diet. Naturopaths are fantastic at what they do. Here in BC, they have the best scope of practice, to be honest with you. And they're very knowledgeable. I have a group of them, one of them that works with me, Dr. Rosita. She was an MD in Iran. She's a naturopath here. And so she knows the best of both worlds. So I hired her. It's like, look, I have this type of patients. And she loves the psychological aspect of care when it comes to concussions and post-concussions. Like, I love that stuff. I can assess their hormones. I can assess their stool. I can assess their urine test. I can see what are the things that are the shortcomings of the body, endocrinologically speaking, and I can feed them what they need to be fed in order for the nervous system, endocrine system to start kind of activated properly. So to your question, what do I say to these people that you were dealing with this? It will become cognitive issues at some point, right? What do we do? There are amazing programs for cognition and resetting your cognitive impairment. If it's mild, moderate, we can bring it back. Recode 2.0, it's a program that our clinic is certified with, that we have a 20 weeks program to neuroplasticize your brain in a way that your gold standard test for cognition, which were very low, and they labeled you with MCI or mild cognitive impairment, we repattern the brain. We create neuroplasticity. We use your own brain neural pathways to adapt it to the next level of activity. And then when we do the test after 20 weeks, using, you see the naturopath part of that, you see the physician as part of that, you get some IV therapies done for nutrients, you get some supplementation, you'll do some hyperbaric oxygen therapy, you'll do some what is called EWAT, exercise with oxygen therapy in our own clinic, you'll do some neuroplasticity exercises that we put you through, we fix your vestibular perception as to where you are in space. In 20 weeks, people scored very low in the spectrum of their Montreal Cognitive Assessment Test or our full brain capacity test that we do for cognition, they score so much higher. They feel so much better. They remember things. And they're happy. And they make us happy. And we can demonstrate that the brain can change. You have to know what to do with it. You have to put them through that program. And I think there is no limit to it, to be honest with you. And it's fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah. We're graduating one of our patients in 2 weeks from his 20 weeks neuroplasticity program for cognitive impairment, moderate, not mild. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And he said, look, as soon as we're done, I want to go in front of the camera. I want to tell the world that you guys do this, because I know a lot of my friends that they are suffering from this dementia, from memory issues, cognitive issues. They need to know you're here. I said, please, I don't like advertising because I don't know if I can take that load. But look, we'll do our best. One isolated person, yeah, sure. If we can help them, we do that. But the reason I came to you, Kid, is to use your platform to tell people there is hope. It's with your diagnosis and your treatments right now that is not getting you away from what you were before should not be the end of it. There is hope. I went through it myself, and I did not stop until I had an answer. Yes, I went to school for it multiple times. I had to go and study more and more, get the fellowship, understand more, do more research, treat more people to understand what is going on. So nobody that comes to our office goes without hope. And that's the most important thing.
I feel like you're training superheroes over there.
To me, my staff are superheroes. Yeah. I swear. Yeah. I love them.
Wow.
They're amazing people.
This is so cool, dude.
Thanks.
I can't wait to start taking this. I can't wait to keep going through. I know you've given me some treatment so far.
Yes.
Where you put a laser on my, strap literally like a laser beam on with an elastic band around my head. And then I'm like a cat chasing the laser beam. Follow the laser dot. I'm like, this is an ultimate cat toy.
It's awesome.
This is amazing. Congratulations, first of all.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And what's going to happen to me over the next couple of weeks?
In the next couple of weeks, once we reset, which we are now in the midst of resetting your vestibular system as a whole, then we're going to put you on that gyrus stem. After we use some VR for speed of reaction, we're going to minimize and eventually eliminate that nystagmus or that twitch that you had. And then the brain starts perceiving where your head is in space. And then as a result of that, the brain says, all right, you know what? I don't need the neck anymore to constantly get this information back to create that tightness in the neck that you're dealing with. And so after that, you're just going to feel better. You come in whenever you want to come in for a tune-up. You get your alignment if you want to. You get some massage. If you want to get some acupuncture, get some acupuncture. Get the things going. Right.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're always challenge the brain. And before you're done, we give you a couple of apps that you download that we can see from the back end what you're doing with the brain exercises, the saccade or tracking of the eye movement, the memory games that we're going to give you, the balance games that we're going to give you, to see that you're right. You know what? You're doing your homework. You're not off the hook. Because that brain, as we age, is supposed to age, but we can actually keep it up a notch. So you'll always be young.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, man.
At heart and on brain.
Well, after a speech like that, how can you not want to do it, right?
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Brother, thank you so much, man.
It was a pleasure.
It was a lot of fun.
Cheers.
Thank you. Hey, guys, it's Kid. Please subscribe to the podcast. It helps push the show out to more people.